In this video, I'm going to go over how to do calculations involving fractions with the TI-84 graphing calculator. So the first thing you should be aware of is that the default is for the calculator to calculate the result in decimal form. To convert the decimal value into a fraction, the operation is located in the math menu. So the math key is located here. Right, so we press on the math key and you can see the first two operations in the math menu is so the first one is to convert from a decimal to a fraction, and then the second operation is to convert from a fraction to a decimal. So we're going to be using this first operation to do these things. And the other thing is the second thing is to be careful about how you enter the fraction into the calculator. Because of certain things involving the order of operations, we're going to need to add in parentheses when we want to indicate a specific fraction that goes together like this. So like this. Okay, so let's do some calculations, right? So first, addition, right? So here on the scratch paper, I've done it basically how you do it by hand, right? By finding the common denominator. So the least common denominator between 4 and 3 is 12, and then you calculate it like this. But how would I calculate this on the calculator, right? So I just enter in the fraction using the division key, right? So I'm doing 1/4 plus 2/3. 1/4 and plus 2/3, right? So because in the standard order of operations division goes before addition, the calculator understands that this 1/4 should go together and this 2/3 should go together, so we don't really need parentheses here, right? Okay, so then here I'm just gonna do the calculation, press enter, and it gives the answer in decimal form. And now I will convert it back into fraction form. So I press math and then choose the arrow fraction to convert it to fraction, right? So it converts the answer to a fraction. And then I press enter to do the operation, and then it gives me the answer as 11/12, which is what the correct answer should be. Okay, so that's basically how you do it. So let's look at some other examples, right? So the second example here I have is 4/5 minus 3, right? So the first thing is a fraction and the second thing is a whole number, but that doesn't matter. We can just calculate it together, right? So 4/5 minus 3, again, because of the order of operations, division going before subtraction, I don't have to worry about parentheses here because it'll take the 4/5 as a single entity together. Okay, so we do the calculation. It gives me -2.2, and then again I can press the math key, and then we change it to a fraction, and then it gives me the correct fraction, which is -11/5. Okay, so multiplication and division of fractions, here we have to be a little bit more careful, right? So here, if I'm trying to do -3/5 times 2, right? So technically I can just do it like this for multiplication. This one isn't bad, but to be extra careful anyway, I should put in extra parentheses to indicate which fractions to go together, right? So this whole thing is a single fraction, and then this thing is another fraction that goes together, right? So when I enter into the calculator, right, so I put a parentheses, -3/5, so that's one fraction, and I'm multiplying it with the other fraction, which is just a whole number, which is 2. Right, so I enter into the calculator like this. It gives me -1.2 as a decimal, but then I convert it to a fraction, which is -6/5, which is the correct answer. Right, because when you multiply the whole number only multiplies into the numerator, and then the denominator stays the same. Okay, so when we're multiplying and dividing fractions, we have to be a little bit more careful by including the parentheses to indicate which fractions should be going together. So we see here in the division when I'm trying to do -1/2 divided by 2/3. So again, here is written out how you would do it by hand, but when I enter into the calculator, here I definitely have to be careful about the parentheses. Right, so I put the -1/2 in parentheses because that's my first fraction. That's the fraction on top. And this fraction is being divided by the fraction on bottom, which I also have to put in parentheses to make sure that the 2/3 is a single thing that goes together. So this is what it means to do -1/2 divided by 2/3. And then when I calculate it, changing it to a fraction, I get -3/4, which is the correct answer. Right, so you can see that if I don't put in the parentheses, it's not going to give me the correct answer because it doesn't know how to do all these divisions together in the correct way that we actually want it to do. Right, so you see how the number here is actually different, right? So make sure when you're doing a calculation like this to enclose the things that you want to actually act like fractions and what the thing that you want to act as the division symbol, to separate them like this so that you do the calculation properly. Okay, so these are some things you want to be aware of when calculating with fractions on the TI-84 graphing calculator.